Last year, I dropped 10 kilos of body fat and got in the best shape I think I've ever been in. And if I'm honest, without sounding like a complete braggy twat, the whole process of losing body fat was actually pretty damn simple. I went on holiday, had several takeaways and even more nights out, and I still ended the process looking like this, despite doing my best impression of Ross from Friends. And by the end of this video, you're going to be able to lose body fat just as easily as I did with these 5 simple steps that you can start doing today. The first step I took was tracking some all-important data. Every single morning I would wake up, I would take myself to the bathroom and do my business, and then I would jump on the scales and record my daily weight. I tracked more or less every single calorie that passed my lips, I tracked my steps, and I recorded photos and measurements every single month. This was simply so I could see how much I was eating, how much activity I was doing day to day, and how my body was responding to the targets that I was setting myself. More on targets in a second. But before we get onto that, you might be wondering why I chose to weigh myself daily, as opposed to weekly, which is what a lot of people do. And it's all because of daily weight fluctuations. Now, your weight can change every single day depending on a whole host of different reasons, mainly what you've done the day before, how much you've eaten the day before, how much exercise you've done the day before, or not done, how much you've had to drink the day before, how you've slept, for women, what week you're in terms of your menstrual cycle, loads of stuff. The important thing to note is these daily weight fluctuations are mostly out of your control. You can't really do anything about them. But the problem with weighing yourself just once per week is this. You could start your fat loss journey and weigh yourself on the Saturday on a day where you have naturally fluctuated down in terms of your body weight. You could then spend the entire week doing everything right, putting yourself into a calorie deficit and ticking all the right boxes, and then when you come to weigh yourself again on the Saturday, you have naturally fluctuated up. You're going to see that as you have gained weight and put on body fat, but in reality, all that's happened is your body has just held on to a bit more water than it did the previous time you weighed in. Whenever you use the scales for a fat loss journey, it's far more accurate to take a daily measurement and then work out your weekly average so that we can account for these natural fluctuations. You might also be wondering whether or not it's entirely necessary to count your calories to lose body fat. And the answer to that question is, well, no, it's not entirely necessary. Does it make the whole process a hell of a lot easier? Yes, and there's an analogy that I use to explain this. Put it this way, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you are desperate for a wee and you go to the bathroom and you keep your eyes shut and you keep the light off, chances are you're probably going to piss all over the floor and make a mess. When you track your calories to lose fat, it's like that bathroom scenario, but you've opened your eyes and you've turned the bathroom light on. You are suddenly aware of your overconsumption and the potential mess that you're making, and you can start to work on ways to actually improve your eating habits. The second step I took was setting myself some targets. Now, I had targets for calories, protein, steps, and how many workouts I should do per week. Having targets in place is obviously going to help us achieve our goal because it's simply going to add more structure to our day-to-day lives. And with more structure and with a better sense of accountability, well, we're probably going to get more shit done. In terms of how to determine your calorie target and your protein target, your step target, and how many workouts you should be doing per week, well, here's what I would recommend. For calories, go onto Google and type in TDEE calculator. Pop in all your details and then you will be given a number. This is your calorie target, but it's really important that you recognize that this is a ballpark figure. It doesn't necessarily mean that once you stick to those targets, the body fat is going to drop off you. You need to kind of test this figure out. What I would recommend is you spend the next 2 weeks weighing yourself every single day and also sticking to that calorie target, and then working out your average weekly weight in week 1 and week 2. And if you lose weight, then the calorie target is correct. If you don't, then drop your calories by 100 or 200 calories, depending on how you think you're gonna do, and then test it again. Weigh yourself every single day for the next 2 weeks, work out your weekly averages while sticking to the calories, obviously. And if you lose weight again, then you're on the right track. Rinse and repeat until you get some weight loss. If you're sat there wondering about carbs and fats, well, here's the thing. You don't need to track carbs and fats to lose weight, so long as you stick to your calorie target and your protein target. By doing that, it becomes impossible to overeat on carbs and fats. And I find if we track carbs, fats, protein, and calories, it becomes a bit too complicated. So long as we stick to our calorie target and our protein target, we do not need to pay much attention to carbs or fats. Make it simple. For protein, I would aim for 1.5 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. For steps, I would simply just try and do 2,000 to 4,000 more steps than what you're doing currently. And for workouts, well, that's step 3. Before we get into that, if you want more videos that are in depth like this, that are just going to help make your health and fitness a hell of a lot easier, then subscribe, because I'm going to be posting these videos weekly from now on. The third step I took was all to do with workouts, and full disclosure, I was a bit of an idiot when it comes to this. I decided to just keep my usual routine of 6 days a week of CrossFit whilst dieting. Yeah, in hindsight, not a good idea, and I certainly wouldn't recommend that for anyone else either. If you're the type of person who is a bit time poor and can't really commit to the gym for more than 2 or 3 sessions per week, then fear not, because that is more than enough to actually make decent progress. There is one thing you need to do though. Rather than split your workouts into specific body parts and have a leg day or an arms day or a shoulders day, FYI, no one needs a whole day to train their shoulders. Instead of doing that, what you should be doing is a full body workout. The reason for that is it's a much more efficient way of training. Rather than just training a single specific area on your body once per week, because obviously time only allows once per week, you are training your full body 2 or 3 times per week. So obviously you're going to see much more progress from the back of that. To be perfectly honest though, exercise doesn't make a massive difference when it comes to fat loss, and I'm going to demonstrate using some very expensive Lego. This represents your total daily energy expenditure, or how many calories you burn in a typical day. This part in red is known as your BMR, your basal metabolic rate to be scientific, and basically that means how many calories your body would burn if you were in a coma, basically doing the bare minimum. It works out about 70%. So even if you're sat there doing sod all, you're still burning calories, which is obviously a good thing. This part here in yellow is known as your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is basically a fancy and roundabout way of saying how active you are day to day that does not include any exercise. Think of all the chores you do around the house, all the little fidgets you do, parking further away when you go shopping, walking to the shops instead of driving, and other things like that. And this makes up about 15% of your daily calorie burn. So, you know, it's a sizable chunk. The next part here in green is known as your thermic effect of food, your TEF, which is basically how many calories you burn whilst digesting calories. It makes up about 10% of your calorie burn. Out of all the 3 macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fat, protein is the one that takes the longest to digest and actually burns the most calories when you eat it. So a high protein diet is always encouraged. And the final part in blue is how many calories you burn in a typical day whilst doing exercise. It only makes up 5%, so it's not a great deal, which is the point I was making in the first place. The fourth step is all about not getting hungry. In the 12 weeks that I was dieting, I can only really remember getting hungry on 1 or 2 occasions. The rest of the time, I kept myself full by doing these 2 things. The first thing was utilizing lower calorie substitutes. If you don't know what that means, think of full fat mayonnaise to lighter mayonnaise, or whole milk to semi-skim milk, or if you sleep on banknotes, the normal Lurpak to the lighter Lurpak. By swapping these things to the lower calorie alternative, we do one of 2 things. Either we free up more calories to put ourselves in a bigger calorie deficit and therefore see quicker progress, or we free up more calories to then spend on more food to fill us up a bit more and make the diet a bit more sustainable. Either way, it's a win-win. The other thing was just ensuring that I was eating plenty of high volume, low calorie foods. Plenty of berries in my morning breakfast and loads of leafy greens in my lunch and dinner if possible. I know it sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people still eat platefuls of beige food and wonder why they get hungry immediately afterwards. Turns out your parents were right, vegetables are actually quite good for you. Trust me on that one. The 5th and final step was something known as calorie banking, and this was my absolute savior. It allowed me to still enjoy my weekends, it allowed me to still have takeaways, still enjoy some nights out with some friends, and actually still have a social life rather than living like a complete and utter hermit. To explain what calorie banking is, I have a very simple analogy. Think about it like your finances. If you know that you are going out this weekend and you are going to spend a fortune on stuff you don't really need to probably impress people you don't really like, well, you're probably going to tighten the purse strings a little bit in the week so you don't go broke. Simple stuff, right? Well, it turns out it's the same with your calories. You do not need to stick to the same calorie target every single day. If you know you're going out this weekend and you're going to have more calories than you probably should, well, you can save up some calories Monday to Friday and then you can spend them at the weekend. Let's work through an example. Say your calorie target is 2,000 calories and you know that you've got something coming up this weekend. 2,000 calories on a night out won't even touch the sides, will it, to be fair? So it's really important we utilize this calorie banking to our advantage. If you stick to 1,700 calories Monday to Friday, and assuming that Sunday, your hangover day, is a normal day on 2,000 calories, you have saved yourself 1,500 calories to spend on Saturday. That's on top of your normal 2,000 calories. So for Saturday, you have a total of 3,500 calories to spend, and that's still going to put you in a calorie deficit across the whole week. And yes, you will still see progress, and you will lose body fat by doing that. And there we have it. Follow those 5 simple steps, and I guarantee losing body fat will be a hell of a lot quicker and simpler, rather than you losing and gaining the same 2 pounds every single month. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.